I call myself a nationalist. So you see, I also call myself a Christian nationalist. And that's not a bad word. That's actually a good thing, right?
Marjorie Greene has caught some feelings after the phrase nationalist came up in her speech. This isn't the first time she's referred to herself as a proud nationalist. In response to that, people started calling her a Nazi, and she didn't like that. It was trending on Twitter. So she felt the need to defend herself and said, you know what? I'm a Christian nationalist. There's nothing wrong with that. So here are the comments Greene made during her speech before the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit in Tampa, Florida. I want you to watch it in more context, and then I'll tell you how she's trying to defend herself and how it's really been a fruitless effort.
So you see, I also call myself a Christian nationalist, and that's not a bad word. That's actually a good thing, right? And there's nothing wrong with leading with your faith, because we should lead with our faith. Because if we're doing that, then we're doing the right thing.
Farron, I'm wondering whether you think she genuinely knows what it means to be a Christian nationalist and she's proudly touting that regardless, or if she's just so stupid that she doesn't understand what being a Christian nationalist means, what the historical implications of that means. Like, I don't know if she really understands what she's saying.
You know, that's always been my problem with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and even with Gates and Boebert and Cawthorn and the whole creepy crew, is trying to figure out who's acting and who is genuine. You know, and we see it a lot with the grifters on the right as well. You know, who's pretending to be something, who is actually this horrible thing. They're all terrible. But I think with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think she's just genuinely stupid. I mean, she graduated college. She's got a degree, a bachelor's degree in business administration. So obviously not heavy on history, you know, unless she took a bunch of electives that we don't know about. But I think she is genuinely not informed and has no idea what she is saying or doing. I would love to think that she is doing this maliciously, and I think now she knows. I think somebody told her, and that's why she's still doubling down on it. Like, oh, I like that even more.
Probably, yeah.
But I think we're just dealing with somebody who's, you know, she's not necessarily the brightest bulb in that congressional chandelier.
No, I'll just put it that way. She's incredibly stupid. Like, I mean, let's just call it what it is. She is incredibly stupid. She does not understand what this country was supposed to be. She doesn't even care for what this country was supposed to be and what it was supposed to represent. And the problem with being a Christian nationalist is that it goes against the very core, the very foundation of this country. It goes against literally like the First Amendment to the Constitution. And I'll get to those details, but in response to her statement, she was called a Nazi. And she couldn't understand why she was being called a Nazi. Don't worry, Marjorie, we'll explain it in just a moment. She says, quote, I am being attacked by the godless left because I said I'm a proud Christian nationalist. These evil people are even calling me a Nazi because I proudly love my country and my God. The left has shown us exactly who they are. They hate America, they hate God, and they hate us. So let's just make a few things clear. You hate America. We have a very clear separation of church and state. The government shall not establish religion. It is in our Constitution, but she doesn't care. And look, it's totally fine to be a proud Christian. Totally fine to be proud of your country, to love your country. In fact, I think most people, even despite the criticisms and critiques they might have for the country and where we are today, do love the country. I remember we did a story recently where a bunch of Polish LARPers were like mocking the way Americans live in the middle of the country. And I got super offended. Like, I didn't expect to, but I got super offended by it because I'm like, no, these are our people. Don't mock us. I'm not okay with that, you know? Because I do love this country and I do love the people in it, even those I might disagree with politically. I'm not talking about the politicians, I'm talking about ordinary people, right? who wanna, maybe share their ideas. We might disagree, but let's have a debate about it. And let's not hate each other because we might have a different perspective. But what we see with Marjorie Taylor Greene is a significant, and you can see it, like this distrust toward what America is supposed to be, a hatred toward what our Constitution actually entails. And I wonder if she's ever even read the Constitution. She says nationalist isn't a bad word. It means you care about your country. I'm sure there are plenty of people in this country who love it, who care about it, and don't refer to themselves as a nationalist because they know what nationalism means. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene might or might not know what nationalism means. If she does know what it means, then it's incredible that we have members of Congress who are touting nationalism, including Christian nationalism, which does have a pretty dark history. Christian nationalism is defined as the belief that the American nation is defined by Christianity and that the government should take active steps to keep it that way, according to an article published by Christianity Today in 2021. Critics of Christian nationalism, including hundreds of evangelical leaders, which honestly is a little shocking, argue that it violates the separation of church and state while also encouraging discrimination against people of non-Christian faiths and those who do not follow any religion. Newsweek published that, and I wish there was a little more specificity because I have yet to see any evangelical leaders say anything like that. Have you ever seen an evangelical leader, Farron, go, Christian nationalism is very, very bad. We got to look out for our atheist and agnostic brothers and sisters. Please.
No, all we hear from them is that, hey, you guys are all going to hell for everything that you believe, everything that you are. That's what they are. So yeah, that was that stuck out to me too. Is like, really? Can we maybe get some documentation to back this up? Maybe some videos or statements written by these people. But again, it all comes down to, does she even understand what she's saying? Does she even have the capacity to understand this? And like you said, she's probably never read the Constitution. It's not exactly a fun read. And there's a lot of, very old words that are difficult to pronounce. The way they write it is not similar to how we write today. So no, I don't think she has read it. But what they've done, people like her, they've created this different version of the Constitution, this different version of American history in their brains. They've fed it to their supporters, and that is actually what they believe now. So it doesn't matter what the history is, the history that you and I know and understand. They're either believing their own alternate reality, or they're just simply rewriting the history itself, as we're seeing with the textbooks issue here. So eventually their history is unfortunately probably going to be what's taught if we can't stop this onslaught of just Republican, forced ideology on us.
And as Reverend Leah Shade wrote perfectly on Twitter, Christian nationalism was the religion of the Third Reich. Christian nationalism is definitely something to be afraid of. And so I think that there are people in this country who tout Christian nationalism knowing exactly what it means. And I think you're also right, Farron, in that if Marjorie Greene didn't know what Christian nationalism meant before, she certainly does now. And she has decided to double down. And that is not something to celebrate, especially when we're talking about a member of Congress who doesn't believe in our constitutional rights and doesn't believe that the First Amendment of the Constitution explicitly prohibits Congress from making any law respecting an establishment of religion. She hates this country. She says she loves it, but she hates everything it really represents, everything it's supposed to represent. And she wants to force her beliefs onto everyone else. And honestly, every time we cover these stories, I can't help but think about Ben Shapiro. Because Ben, what are you doing, bro? What are your thoughts on this? You're gonna keep enabling this? Because I know you ain't Christian. You should be able to practice your religion. I support that 100%. The party that you shill for doesn't believe that 100%.